Hi, we are live. I am doing Q&A for anyone who's here in our live stream. I do this every once in a while. And the way that we do this is you just go ahead and tell me what it is that you have questions about as far as God, faith, religion, Christianity, and I'm going to answer them. They are going to be in the chat. So we are live right now on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And yeah, so if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm going to answer those questions as they come up. And I hope that we have a really great conversation today. I do this every once in a while, and I know that it takes just a little bit of time to get to the get from when I say that to you hearing that. So just go ahead and put those um, in the chat, and I'm going to do that as best as I can. Um, sometimes people ask about Bible translations, like why it is that the King James Version is the least reliable Bible translation. Sometimes people have questions about what the Bible says about things like being queer and how we live into that as queer people that are spiritual and trying to live into the spiritual life. All kinds of different issues. Really, everything is fair game today. Obviously, if you are going to be spewing hate, um, uh, we will uh, put your comments away. Because this is not a place to spew hate or propaganda. But if you are watching us live on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, I'm looking for your comments and questions, and we'll respond to those as they come in. As you know, I am deeply skeptical. I'm also a pastor. People will often ask me, how can you be both a skeptic and a pastor? And that really has to do with data. I am uh, I am a person that looks for data, and what's important to me as a skeptic is to find reliable data that is in the field that produces the data. So, for example, if you want to talk about the age of the universe, you're going to look for cosmologists. If you're looking for the age of the Earth, that's often geologists that are doing that kind of work. And religion is another field like science. It's a broad field like science. And so if you're looking for answers about religion and spirituality, you're not going to look for that in science. If you're looking at a sacred text, which is a subset of religion and spirituality, you're going to look for experts in interpreting those sacred texts. If that's the Bible, you're looking for biblical scholars. And so for me, as a skeptic and a pastor, a deep skeptic, I am looking for that data, processing that data, and choosing beliefs based on that. One of the sort of fundamental undergirding principles of being a skeptic is that you are sure that you are wrong. And you just don't know what you are wrong about. Hey, Mimi, biblical scholars and cultural experts. Yeah, a lot of times the biblical scholars also talk about ancient cultures, but yes, there are historians. I actually just interviewed a couple of those on my podcast, Unbelief. That the historians and cultural experts that look at the Bible through that lens can give you a lot of really helpful data when you are trying to figure out what it is and what you believe, and choose those those beliefs. If you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat on Instagram, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. And I'll do my best to answer as many of those questions as I can in the time that we're going to be live together. We have an incredible moderator, DJ. Thank you so much, DJ. She is going to be grabbing those questions and sending them to me so that I am not constantly looking at trying to tab through all of the different things, and she will moderate the comments if they get out of hand or mean or hateful. And as DJ is getting online, I am seeing a question. How do you navigate relationships with people who are still heavily fundamentalist evangelical? I think that when we're talking about people who are fundamentalists, who are evangelical, we are often talking about people like navigating relationships. So what I'm going to assume here is that you are wanting to stay in relationship with those people and that you have sort of an active relationship with them. I say one of the most important things in navigating those relationships and having the difficult conversations is to remember that you are trying to maintain a longer term relationship with them. And because of that, it means whatever actions, whatever conversations you have, that's not the only conversation. And so one of the really, really important fundamental principles is that you are to think of whatever conversation, whatever thing that you are going to maybe have a disagreement about. You can have 1,000 conversations and not just one. And so thinking about it as 1,000 conversations and not just one means that each conversation can be very small and they can build into more intense, deeper subjects. But you don't have to accomplish everything in a single conversation. That also allows you to develop a trust and an empathy with each other over time, that when you begin to talk about deeper, more things that you disagree more deeply on, you are coming from that sort of empathetic place. But in order to develop that trust and empathy, one of the things that's really important is something that our modern dialogue often doesn't do and doesn't equip us with. And that is you are listening to understand them. You're listening to understand each other. And so what that means is that when somebody says a statement to you, you are going to pause, and instead of responding to their statement, you're going to reflect back what you hear and the character of what you hear. You're not just going to parrot back exactly what you say, but they said, but you're going to say, you know what? So what I feel like I'm hearing you say is, and you're going to sort of give your understanding, and you say, like, am I hearing that right? And oftentimes they'll respond, because you're not just saying the words back, you're saying like your sort of emotional response. It sounds like you are really upset with whatever. And it's like, well, I'm not upset with it. I really think whatever. And you continue to reflect back what they've said until you feel like you both agree that you're understanding that. And then after you establish that understanding, you can respond. And again, we're having 1,000 conversations, not just one. So we're dealing with one little tiny thing, and you don't have to explode it into everything. You can just respond to that one thing. So I hope that that helps. That helps in that with that question. So we have another question from TikTok. What do you think about the Sumerian tablets, specifically the Adpa story and the flood story? Actually, I'm not super familiar with those specific things well enough to really comment on them. So So yeah, I feel like I can't give you a good response. Okay, so on Instagram, JDub, good morning. Do you think there's truth in the Gnostic Gospels? Um, well, first off, I think I have a broader understanding of that term truth. So in the more fundamentalist world, truth is something that is a very specific claim, and you have to either agree with it or disagree with it. And when we're talking about texts, it's often a very literal reading of the text. I think that, especially ancient spiritual texts, we're talking about a different kind of truth, truth that is deeper, truth like you find in poetry or art, and that help you process your own world, understand reality. And for that, I think, yeah, the Gnostic Gospels have some truth. Um, Now, I will say that uh, nobody has ever, um, uh, with any sort of reliable data, claimed that the Gnostic Gospels are a more accurate understanding of Jesus. And so I think that's important to say when you're talking about historical accuracy. They don't seem to reflect that. For that, you really want to look at the synoptic gospels and the book of John. So the ones that are in the New Testament. Very early on, it was agreed on that those were the best sources, like before the year 200, right? So the earliest Christians, of all the gospel accounts that were circulating, those are the most reliable. And really, by the 300s, the Gnostic Gospels are fading from people's mind, and we really even have a hard time finding full copies of many of them. Um, all right. So another Instagram question, because Rose, hi from Australia. Oh, wow, great. I love the fact that we are always in this sort of international audience space. Can you talk about disability and how God made us in God's likeness? Absolutely. I'll say that one of the things I think that is important to note is that, or I say my background, my mother was a special education teacher. So and I have an uncle that he passed recently, severely, profoundly Down syndrome, nonverbal. I have a lot of personal experience with this community. And I, I want to say that people with different abilities, or people who are called disabled, it's an unfortunate term because there's a broad range of what it means to be human, a broad range of human experience that includes um, uh, different uh, so-called disabilities. Um, Definitely, it is. There is a sort of norm, like the bell curve of biology and brain science and all of that. But I don't think that just because someone is uh, maybe nonverbal and autistic, someone who has Down syndrome, someone who is deaf or blind, are somehow less made in God's image. I think the image of God is bigger, and I do think that the physical experience of people is part of. Part of what it means to be human and to engage with God. Um, but being disabled doesn't mean you are somehow less than when it comes to the image of God. The image of God is a deeper reality. It means that inside of us, the deepest part of who we are, um, we reflect God, and we have a sense of the ultimate reality of who God is, and we are at our deepest part good and holy. And a lot of mystics will say that we have sort of covered over that image of God with all the evil in the world, but at our core is the image of God. And so people who have different abilities and disabilities are just as much made in the image of God as other people. I don't think that the image of God has to do with physicality. God doesn't have arms or vocal cords or anything like that. So the image of God has to be deeper than that. Yeah, thanks for that question. I really appreciate that. Another question, this time from TikTok, Zach, because I'm sorry, let me get that right. Yes, nope. Here we go. Yeah, Zach. Um, and I think this is TikTok. Why are our leaders and sports figures so over the moon for God? I'm not really sure. And I know that there's sort of wide-ranging views on God, often very different, even sort of opposite views on God and what God requires. I would say that some of our political leaders seem to be appropriating Christianity to serve their own political motives and power, sort of increase their power. The people who I see doing that are not reflecting anything accurate in regards to like the teachings of Jesus, for example. Um, I hope that helps. Um, this is Caspra Blunt, I think from TikTok. Hi, Jeremy. Love watching you use your voice to help people. Keep being awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. One of the ways I use my voice is to try to help people find spiritual beliefs and practices that work for them. And part of that is this thing called the Not Church community. It's a community of people that are doing just that. It's called Not Church because it's like what people were looking for from church: community, spiritual exploration, support, uh, but not the judgment that they often experienced in church for having doubts and questions and exploring spirituality. And it's a really cool place. It's actually people with this learning posture that are trying to learn from each other and support each other. Um, it's it's amazing. I think you would love it. Um, now, this sort of spiritual community, faith community, has people of all different religious identities. A lot of us have been deeply traumatized by the church, and that trauma has been around a lot of times. One of the pieces around being manipulated out of money. So we don't ask for donations. Everything we do is pay for what you get. And so to be part of that Not Church community, you can go to the link in my profile. It's $3 a month, and it's totally worth it. But if it doesn't work out for you, it's really easy. You just stop paying. We're also not part of a capitalistic system of injustice that says only people who with expendable income deserve to be part of a religious community. So if you can't swing $3, you can message me and we'll try to get you in for free. Okay, Lauren Valentine, I think from TikTok. Can you explain what the story of Adam and Eve really meant? Uh, I, yeah. Um, I think there's layers of meaning there. So I'll sort of give you one characterization of that story. I think that to think of it in literal terms, like there was a literal first person and second person, and there was a literal snake that was able to talk, like that's not helpful. Um, However, what you see there, I think, answers a bunch of basic human questions. One of them is there's this like when there's evil and injustice in the world and when people die, there's a deep sense like people say this is wrong, this isn't how it is supposed to be. When somebody passes, it's like this isn't how it's supposed to be. And which is funny because evil and injustice and death are the norms of human experience, right? Everybody experiences that. And so if that's the norm forever of human experience, it seems strange that our core would say why this seems to be wrong, like not the way things are supposed to be. And the Adam and Eve story has an answer for that. That there was this original state where people were in harmony with each other, with the earth, with God, and they had meaningful work to do. And there wasn't death. Um, and and then um, and then it sort of answers a question of like, why is there bad things in the world, right? We have this sense of like, this isn't the way it should be. And the answer is that it's because we choose to do bad. Ultimately, theologically, it means that God gives humanity actual free will to actually choose. And we often choose evil and injustice and oppression. And and so it answers those questions and many, many more um, through the story of the first humans and how everything got broken. Um, yeah, I um, I I hope that helps. Um, Wendy W from YouTube, what are your views on the Apostle Paul, and do you think his writings are legit and should be in the Bible? Um, I think I have sort of a couple of opinions about that. I don't make a call as to what should or shouldn't be in the Bible. That call was made a long time ago, and it would take an even bigger ego than I have, and a lot of arrogance, even more than I have, to feel like I can make that call. But okay, so Paul is problematic a lot of times because people will point to Paul's writings and say, "Oh wow, like he says some horrible things. Women shouldn't talk in church, etc." Um, but that is not a very nuanced understanding of Paul's writings. So, in order to understand what's going on in a lot of those writings, you have to understand who Paul was writing to, and so because remember at this point, these Paul's writing to these tiny, tiny Christian communities, right? There's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people living in this city, and there's 10, 20 Christians there. So they have very specific problems that are often very closely related to the specific place they live. Like for instance, in Corinth, Corinth was a big metropolitan city, had lots of different gods that were worshipped by lots of different people and lots of different religions. And but it was a affluent city. There was lots of business. You can think of it maybe as New York City in the modern day. But one of the things that was a practice there is that in order to secure some business deals, you had to agree to worship another god. Like you would go to that person you're trying to make the deal with, to their temple. You would make a sacrifice to their god, and then you could sort of be in business with them. That's the context for Paul's comments on being unequally yoked. A lot of evangelicals have extrapolated that to saying like Christians shouldn't marry people of different religions. That's not really what's going on there. What's going on in that context is Paul saying like, look, you're trying to follow the teachings of Jesus, and we're trying to teach you that. And this is a different religious stream, and so you don't need to go and worship another god just to make a business deal. Be unequally yoked. And so I think the majority of the problematic passages in Paul's writings are actually explained, understanding the nuance of the people he was talking to. For example, Paul, in one passage, talks about women not talking in church, but in other passages, he names women leaders, even uses words for, like the like official leadership, people that might be ordained as pastors today, and they are women. And he associates those titles with them. And so in order to understand what's going on, you have to get the nuance. So I I see the problematic nature of Paul's writings, but I think that a lot of the problems really exist in this overly literalistic view, not understanding the context and the nuance. Um, okay, so let's look at another question. This time, I think from TikTok. Whoa, here we go. Thank you to DJ for moderating all of this. What is your opinion about all of the barcodes with hidden 666? Take any products and check, you will see. This is a weird conspiracy theory. Um, uh, uh, that is not really helpful. Um, uh, because it's based on a reading of the Book of Revelations. It's also not helpful. The This is this idea that Revelation is like prophesying the future today. That's not what Revelation is about. Biblical scholars roundly reject. This is a sort of group of interpretations of the Bible that's called dispensationalism, and it's just not what that book is talking about. Um, uh, so, so, and also this whole idea of this being in the barcode, um, uh, that is just also been roundly debunked. There's these different widths of lines that begin and end the barcodes, and it's just a myth. Um, Sherry from TikTok, hi Jeremy, do you think being homosexual is a sin? And if so, why aren't other sins considered as bad? Sherry, I don't think so. To be completely open and honest with you, I your name triggered the little lady that listens in all of our phones. So sorry about that. I'm not even sure how to get that to stop. Yeah. So anyway, the um, to be completely honest, I'm not straight, um, and I don't think that that is a sin. I also don't think that that is a choice. It is an orientation that is with people from the beginning, and the word homosexual only appeared in the Bible in 1946 and forward. It was a translation error that has been very widely explained. I actually have some videos that go verse by verse through all of the different passages in the Bible that people use to say this. They don't. And so I don't think it's a sin. So I don't think it's worse than other sins. I hope that helps. Liz Rolls, how do you suggest developing community like that in person? I think you're talking about our not church community. That's the community, a spiritual community of people that is exploring faith and spirituality. People of all different religious identities that are supporting each other in that journey, spiritual beliefs and practices, finding those. It's like church without the judgment. And it's something that if you're interested in, there's a link in my profile. I actually have never experienced this. This is the church that I've always wanted to be part of. But you're talking about how to develop a community like that in person. I think first off, you need to find the people that are asking the questions. They're everywhere, and and say like, look, let's hang out. Let's have coffee once a month, and talk about what we're thinking, the questions we're having, the doubts we're having, what spiritual practices seem to work for you. Maybe I should try some of those myself to see if they work for me. Um, and, give each other cell phones, support each other in person. All right. Question from YouTube, Donna Jean. Death is normal, but murder? Question mark. It's awful to have it becoming the norm in our country. Yeah, I'm I'm right there with you. It's horrible. And And I wish that that wasn't the case. And I think that people who follow the teachings of Jesus should be working to end murder and gun violence and the conditions that open a culture up for those things. All right, Through the Mist on TikTok. Awesome. Do you happen to know why Jesus is called Jesus of Nazareth and not Jesus of Bethlehem? Could it be that Jesus was actually born in Nazareth and that Matthew and Luke both give those narratives to point the Jewish people towards a prophecy found in Micah? Yes, I think you're 100% right. The historians, biblical scholars would tell you that the accounts of Jesus are not focused on historicity as we imagine it today, right? The values of historians and people telling these things at that time were not about getting the actual events exactly right as they happened, but using those events to communicate a deeper truth. And the early Christians are trying to communicate what it means to be a Christian, what it means to follow Jesus by telling you stories about Jesus. And I think you are right that Matthew and Luke point to Bethlehem as a way of talking about prophecy. Those two are very focused on the way that Jesus fulfilled prophecy. Luke, especially, he's a Jewish person. He wants to do that. It's important to remember that the Christianity really began as really a renewal, a Reformation movement within Judaism. And so those Jewish prophecies are really important for them to discuss and name. Um, and it does appear that Jesus grew up in Nazareth, at least according to those Gospels, which are the sort of most reliable accounts that we have. Um, and uh, and so this Jesus growing up in Nazareth most likely was born there. The census is also a narrative tool. There's no census like that in the records of the Roman government. There would be. Also, census are for taxing people where they are. So the idea of traveling to be taxed for a census doesn't make any sense. And Rome was not stupid when it came to collecting taxes. They wouldn't do that. So yeah, I hope that helps. All right, on TikTok, Phil Red, any advice for someone whose faith was their whole life, but recently didn't think there was a God? Sure. I will tell you that I am I think this is Instagram. Sorry. Um, I'm not 100% sure God exists, and that's part of being a skeptic. Um, that doesn't make me disengaged with religion and spirituality. Some days I feel more confident that God exists, and some days I feel less confident that God exists. Um, but I think religion and spirituality are helpful. Spiritual beliefs and practices are helpful, and I would say Phil Red that that is right there with you and is trying to do that kind of work together. Um, and I have one of those. It's called Not Church. I've talked about it a little bit already here. It's a community of people that have all kinds. We have atheists, we have agnostics, we have Christian, we have mystics, we have all kinds of religious identities. Everybody is trying to find beliefs, spiritual beliefs, and practices that work for them, and and support each other. Find an actual community. Like we're really there for each other when somebody's middle of the night going to a hospital because they have heart pains, right? Um, we have a lot of trauma around being manipulated out of money. And so we don't ask for donations. It's a pay for what you get model, $3 a month. Gets you access. And there's a link in my profile. Also, if you can't swing $3, you can shoot me a message and I'll try to get that worked out for you. Yeah, and if it doesn't work for you, just stop paying. Insta, wait, I think this is Insta. Yes, Karen Kaboski. To what extent are you influenced by biblical scholars from different Christian denominations, or do you follow just one denomination? Biblical scholarship is biblical scholarship, regardless of your own of a scholar's own personal religious beliefs or practices. Scholars work on consensus, on peer review, and so if it's a biblical scholar, a reputable biblical scholar, I would look for them to be part of the Society for Biblical Literature. That's the broad scholar organization that represents sort of consensus views and the high standards of academia. Yeah, they're all for your game. Okay, another question from Instagram. Jay Black Music, can you talk a little about the idea of hell or afterlife intended to be understood? Carlton Pearson was mistreated. I don't know that person. Um, so I would say hell, our modern conception of hell is informed really primarily by stuff that's not in the Bible, stuff that developed over time, and really it wasn't until the Middle Ages that sort of what we think about it, that it was settled upon. Things like the Divine Comedies really figure in heavily to that. In the Bible, there's a couple of words that are used, and sometimes in poor translations of the Bible, translated as hell. The Old Testament one is Sheol. Sheol is a place that everybody goes when they die. It's a neutral to negative experience. It is nothing like hell as is sort of preached by fundamentalists. In the New Testament, there's two words, Gehenna. Gehenna is an actual physical place, the Hinnom Valley, and in the Hinnom Valley, it was a place that is said that kings did child sacrifices in the past. So it's a place that is like seen as really unholy and polluted, and so it's when Gehenna is used, it's trying to be a metaphor to help them understand how bad something is. It's in service of a deeper truth. And so that's not a really great way to base a theology off of that. And then there's the term Hades. In high school, if you remember Greek mythology, Hades is the land of the dead, the river Styx, all of that. Everybody goes there. Some people are punished, roll a rock up a hill and have it go back down for the rest of eternity. And some people have a great experience. Jesus uses that word in the story of the rich man and Lazarus. And in that story, you don't see hell as as sort of fundamentalists talk about it. You see both Lazarus and the rich man are in the same place in the afterlife. It is very much Hades. And so you can't really get this modern conception of hell reliably from the text of the Bible. It says my video is off, which I don't see on Instagram. Let me see what's going on Instagram real quick. Nope, I see it. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on for you, but Aquel Mode, do you want churches, or do you feel churches should be a space that doesn't speak out about social justice so all opinions would feel at home? Or rather, do you speak out in favor of refugees, LGBTQ plus, for example? I think if they're Christian churches, if they're following the example of Jesus, Jesus spoke out against injustice, very much was focused on social justice. And so in order to follow that example, they absolutely need to be talking about that. They don't necessarily need to promote voting for a specific politician or not. But asking people, Jesus is very much concerned with personal action, saying like you yourself need to be working in the furtherance of social justice. So yes, they absolutely should speak out in favor of refugees, the LGBTQ plus community, etc. I dissent. Why do we unilaterally accept a text written from the point of view of one group of people? I'm assuming that you're talking about the Bible, and I would say I wouldn't characterize it that way, either the unilateral acceptance or written by one group of people. It's written over thousands of years. The Bible is not univocal. It doesn't speak with one voice. It is way is much more like going into a library and taking a book off a shelf than reading a expanded novel or a series of novels. It is not like that. And that people group changes dramatically over those thousands of years. It's really inaccurate to say there's sort of this one people group and perspective that carries throughout. The Bible disagrees with itself, all of that. I also would say you don't unilaterally accept it, right? You don't take the Bible literally, you take the Bible seriously. And so you look for deeper truths, and you try to take that data and incorporate it into your life. Like one of the really important sources of authority when we're talking about choosing spiritual beliefs is your own experience. Like, I'm going to say that I believe that, I'm going to try to live into that. And then you say, wait, that makes me a horrible person. If your spiritual belief makes you a horrible person, you need to change that belief. Spiritual beliefs should help you become the best version of yourself. They should help you to find a purpose greater than yourself, and help you experience transcendence. That maybe not necessarily goosebumps, but the ability to rise above your circumstances. So I hope that helped. All video is off. TikTok. You know what? DJ, are you seeing that? Is all my video is off? Whoa, wow, that's really wild. I'm now looking at all of the places, and my software shows it. But you're right. My video is off on all the platforms. So let me restart my camera real quick. We will go here, turn that one on, and then go back to this camera, off and on. Okay, I hope that fixed that for you guys. We'll see how that goes. Let me look. I'm hoping that shows back up for you. If not, we're getting towards the end of the time here. And we'll close out our live stream. But I hope that has fixed it, but it appears not. So yeah, it's been great to see you. I'm sorry you can't see me at this point. But thank you so much. And we'll do another one of these Q&As very soon, where hopefully my video will not completely cut out. Yeah, that's so wild. Yeah, I'm going to keep this going for just a second so I can maybe troubleshoot that. Oh, look, I'm back. Okay, one more question. Let's look here. So here we go. Last question. How can you have conversations with people who have turned against organized religion but have genuine interest in God and mysticism? I think that's a really great question from Instagram for Plant for Family. And I think that that really the first thing is to have an empathetic response, right? There's a reason why they have turned against those things, and it's okay. All those feelings are valid. I think the next thing is you're not trying to convert them to win them over to something else. If they're still interested in God and mysticism and all of that, fantastic. And so keep going with that. The other thing is it's really important to validate their experience of religion, of their experience of God, right? Say, yes, I am what you were experiencing as God, and I'm going to validate that as equally true and hope that you will validate my experience of God as real and valid. And then I would say explore together. Focus on understanding and not responding in those conversations, because understanding is really much more helpful when you're trying to have a relationship with people. And only respond once you come to a mutually agreed upon um, understanding of what that person is saying. Um, so, um, yeah, I hope that helps. It's been great to see you all. And I would we'll be doing another one of these really soon. I think somebody asked if there's a place to rewatch it. I believe these are archived on TikTok, and potentially on YouTube. I'm going to check on that and make sure that if not, I download this and I post it to YouTube later today. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon.